Hey, YBL family, this is Chuck Hogan with Your Best Life, and welcome to the Spanish World Network on Zingo TV, channels 250, 251, and 249. Please remember to download both the Zingo TV app on the respective app stores on iOS and Android devices. While you download, why not leave a rating and leave a comment as well? The app's completely free. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire and Fire TV sticks, and of course, Roku and Roku sticks, also on all smart TVs 2016 and forward. So, hey, thank you for joining us tonight. You know, I know you hear me say this often when we're all together, that have I got a treat for you tonight. This is a beautiful soul who I've known, she and her husband now for, oh my gosh golly, it's got to be well over a decade by now. We have spent a lot of time and contribution together, serving communities, serving other people. And let me tell you just a little bit about Dr. Becky Keshmiri. So this woman has cultivated her skills, her craft to help ensure other people's health and vitality through the science and the art of chiropractics. She is not only an allopathic practitioner, but she is a holistic healer at the highest level. When she lays her hands on you, you not only get adjusted, I'll say physically, you get adjusted emotionally, spiritually, and energetically. She and her husband, Larry, own practices in upstate New York. They are real estate moguls. She is an author of multiple publications. She is a mother. She's a grandmother. She is a ultra marathoner. And when I say ultra marathoner, let me explain why. This woman, this crazy soul over here, has decided she's going to run 12 marathons in 12 months. And I just love the heck out of this woman. So please give it up, my friend, your sister from another mister, the one, the only, Dr. Becky Keshmiri. Thank you for being here, my friend. I'm grateful beyond measure to have you on tonight and to share your love, light, and happiness with the universe. So how you feeling?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chuck, for that wonderful, heartful introduction. That was beautiful. And I feel the same. Ditto. Back to you.
Thank you. You know, Becky, I know it's so great to reconnect with you too. And it's one of those things where it doesn't make a difference if a year goes by. Whenever we pick up the phone, it's just like we're picking up not even where we left off. It's just like now. And I love you for so many reasons. And one of them is you meet people where they're at. Like, it's not only a talent that you have, it's a skill that you've cultivated. And it's a beautiful thing to see, because I know that you and I both in our lives have gone through times where we may have felt judged, like, and by all accounts, and I'm raising my legs underneath my desk as well. I may have been a judger. I may have been one of those people that had very high opinions or distinctions about how someone else's energy felt when it was commingled with mine, or if I allowed them to take my energy, or if I gave my energy away, whatever the case might be. And I wanted to ask you a question, and that was, how do you maintain your state? Like, with everything that's going on professionally, personally, life, love, happiness, the pursuit of it, how do you keep Becky Keshmiri centered?
Well, it's a great question, actually. And it's funny because when you were talking and you were talking about the judgment, I was like, I do an interesting thing when listen, the human nature is to always judge, isn't it? And to say you're not judging, it's not real. But one of the things I realized is that when it happens, or I feel like I'm getting upset with someone because I feel judged, because as a lot of people know, our biggest fear is that we're not good enough and that no one will love us. So walking around with those two fears in the entire human race leads for a lot of things to happen inside the mind. Sure. But I try to think this thought, and it helps me a lot. When I see someone judging me and I'm feeling those feelings inside of me, I think to myself, you know what, they don't really mean that. That's not who they are.
Right.
Because who we really are inside of us is we're really sparks of God. And what I mean by that, and I don't mean to come off as this guru or anything, but it's an interesting thing. Otherwise, I start getting really upset. I want to cry and I feel bad about myself. And then I get upset with my family. And, even with my husband, I just finished writing this relationship book called Voyage into Love, the Formula for Everlasting Love, because the name of our boat is a formula. And in writing this book, I realized that, and it will get to your question you answered, that the answers are all within me.
Sure.
Answers are all within our relationships that we're having with people. We're looking outside for all of these things. And in writing this book, I realized, wow, I see the magic in the relationship. I understand why he does what he does that I might get upset with and what it has to do with me and on and on. But, when I'm being creative, I think when most people move into their creativity, then the blame goes away.
Right.
So how do I survive in all of this? I go, I'm just going to keep being creative. I'm going to keep, what can I do to make a difference in my life? And I think that's where most people have to ask themselves that question. What is it they want to do? Who do they want to be?
No, that's great.
Right. Like, who do you want to be? Like, at the end of the day, I do, Joe Dispenza has a great meditation, a morning and evening meditation. And he says, what did you do today that you wish you didn't do, that you would change? And it's interesting to think about it when you go to bed. Like, okay, how was my day? Let me look at it. Let me meditate. And what would I change? Because then when it comes up again, you go, you know what? I really don't want to be thinking about that tonight when I go to bed. Why don't I act different?
It's funny you say that because, Becky, we've had this on this show before. And one of the things that came up was I have these rituals. And one of them is that because the brain doesn't process negative, it doesn't. It's looking for evidence. So if I say, don't look for the elephant in the room, and all of a sudden I go, wait, there's an elephant in the room? And it's like, so now we've distracted your mind and your focus to think about an elephant. But I asked you not to look for the elephant. And the interesting thing about this is that where focus goes, energy flows.
Yep.
So one of the things I started noticing is that I said, everything that we're doing, Becky, is to meet a feeling. Everything. It doesn't make a difference if it's running 12 marathons, if it's writing a book, if it's being in a relationship, if it's succeeding in business, if it's being a great parent. It's all to meet these feelings. And we're energy junkies. Like, that's what we are searching for. And people go, well, is that all energy? And I go, yes, because it can be peaceful energy. It can be soulful energy. It could be hyper energetic energy. And one of the things that came to light was when I asked myself at the beginning of the day, how do I need to feel most often? I set the frame for the rest of my day. It literally, and here's what I love. I love Joe Dispenza, and I only had one challenge with Joe's stuff. When he asked me to look for what was wrong, and I go, well, how about if I do it differently? What if I ask myself, how did how did I just feel most often? How did I feel most often today? And then what did that mean to me? Wait, what? So I'm not making it wrong. I'm just asking myself, I go, was it a positive engagement? Was it a challenging situation? And then I love what you said. And this is what I lead up with. I go, how do I need to feel tomorrow?
Yeah.
I don't need to go to bed perturbed, upset, or judgmental. I can still be curious and measure where I was without having to put any other measurement tool to it. And I'm like going, awesome. And I love Joe's stuff because I'll use his meditations and then I'll finish with, so how did I feel?
That's beautiful.
Right?
That's beautiful. Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that, because when you said that, it was so powerful to go, what do you need? Like, there's a lot of people who are chasing their wants. I don't know if someone who doesn't have something that they want out there, a new car, new home, new shoes, new watch, new something, new vacation. Like, they go, oh, we always go to the same place. Let's go to a different place.
Well, it's interesting. You asked, it's a great question. And, you're talking about these marathons that I'm doing this year, which is mind-boggling in some ways because a few things have happened, and I notice that it's kind of like writing a book. I've written 4 books, and I noticed that the book, when I start out, I want it to be one thing, but it ends up being something else.
Yes.
And that's how life is, right? Like you have an idea, and all you have to do is go with the idea. And I think that a lot of people don't follow through with their creativity and their ideas because they're too worried about how. And instead of being worried about how, you just go, it doesn't matter. This is the idea. Just go with whatever idea pops in, because here's what happens. I realize that all of us are channels for God or spirit or higher power, whatever you want to call it. I call it God, divine God flowing through me. And once your heart gets hit, it gets hit. Now, it's interesting. I ran 1 marathon in 2019 because 2019 was an amazing year because I listened to the call of spirit. So in 2018, I started getting voices saying, you need to move away from practice. And I was like, well, what's going on? Larry said to me, what are you talking about? We have this practice, we're practicing. And I was like, no, I'm just feeling like there's something else. He's like, well, what's that something else? And I said, I don't know. Now, that doesn't sit so well, when you're practicing with someone and someone's saying, hey, by the way, I'm about to pull away. And they're going, wait, no.
Ruh-roh.
Yeah. So then we come down to West Palm Beach because, we're working with Tony Robbins, doing volunteer work with him. And we're at a business mastery in January of 2019. And we come down and he says, oh, we're going to do business mastery. And normally the two of us do it together. And I say, you know what, sweetie, I'm getting an inner nudge that I need to, you go do the seminar and work. And I'm going to go out and look at condos in Florida, in West Palm Beach. And he goes, well, what are you talking about? I go, I don't know. I feel like, I'm just going to look for condos. I really feel we need to buy a condo down here. And he's like, what? He thought I was just kidding, really. And then at the end of the seminar, I said, okay, I got 3 condos lined up I've been looking all week. And he goes, you're serious? I said, no, I'm serious, because if we don't buy a condo down here, we're going to stay up there in upstate New York where it snows all the time, Snowbelt capital of the United States, for the rest of our lives. We're going to stay stuck in our comfortable life. And, I love my husband so much because he said, okay. He went with it. Now, how many people would go with it? He's like, all right, let's do it. And we bought this condo, and then a whole bunch of things happened. We bicycled in May from New York City to West Palm Beach, Florida. And that was, my book, The Road to the Awakened Life, Riding into Your Destiny. And everything exploded in 2019. Then my friend Carla, who both of us know from the environment, says to me, hey, Becky, let's run a marathon. And I go, I can't run a marathon. Now, the year before, in 2019, our friend Olo had run that marathon, and Larry and I happened to be in New York City. And I started videotaping and going, oh my God, the New York Marathon. Look at these people. It's amazing. Oh, I would love to run this. Look at these people. And then we met with him in the morning, and he had Marathon Monday, had his medal, and Carla and I put the medals on, and we're like, look, we're pretending like we ran the marathon. Who would ever think that a year later we would both be running that marathon? It was like incredible what we are all setting our lives up for the future. Now, when she talked to me, when we're bike riding from New York City to West Palm Beach, Florida on our bicycle, she says, let's run this marathon. And I'm like, no, I can't. And she goes, what are you kidding? You're bicycling from New York City to West Palm Beach, Florida. You can do it. So what happens? I do it, right? So I do it. 2019. And then I need to say no more, right? So Larry says to me when we finish, he says, since I did this with you, I want you to do something for me. And I said, what? He goes, I want you to boat with me from St. Lawrence River on the Canadian border to Florida. That's my dream. And the last thing I ever wanted to do, Chuck, was to be on a boat with him for the months that I was on a boat, because it was not easy being on a boat with him, but it changed our lives. I fell in love with him.
Yeah.
And I learned how to be feminine and allow him to be my captain, masculine, and for us to really, fall in love after all these years. And that's what the next book's about. But I run the marathon in 2019. I take this boat trip. I do this bicycle thing, all these things, the call of spirit, right?
Yes.
And what happens in 2020, we all know. And it was a life changer. And it kept us down here. And it allowed us to run businesses from Florida. And I didn't think I'd run another marathon again. That was it. I was like, I'm done. I did it. And in the middle of the night in 2021, I woke up at 1:30 in the morning and I said, I have to run the New York Marathon this year. And I have to run the Palm Beach Marathon. I signed up for 2 marathons in the middle of the night.
Wow.
And then, the rest is history, because the truth of the matter is that this year in 2023, I happened to sign up for 5 marathons in a row by accident, believe it or not.
I think it was unconscious. I don't think it was by accident.
And then what happened to me, it brought me back to the impossibility coming into my mind. This is impossible. How are you going to run a marathon in September, October, November, December, after working a date with destiny, by the way?
Right.
Like, that's crazy. And then Miami in January. And I said, you know what? Step up to the possibility. Move into the impossible, Becky. What's the worst that can happen? You can't run it? What's the worst that could happen to us, right? And and then I realized, I said, it brought me back to, I'm a recovering drug addict and alcoholic. And I have 41 years of sobriety. I was a heroin addict, a cocaine addict, shooting up in Atlantic City. And I realized that I wanted to run these 12 marathons in 12 months, because I really want to write a book about recovery. Because I said, how did I go from being a drug addict in my 20s to, being able to run marathons? And then I really, I just realized, Larry says to me, Becky, you don't look at what you do, you just keep going to the next thing. And he really wanted me to think about, I think it's important that we look at what we all do in life, whatever it is. Whether we're a mother, whether we're, working in an office, a doctor, whatever it is, it doesn't matter, a janitor, we all have greatness in us.
Yes.
And I realized, I said, you know what? Do something extraordinary. Run a marathon every month, and then write a book called The 12 and 12. Because the 12 steps of healing in Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous healed my life and brought me to where I am, onto the spiritual journey that I ended up taking. And I want to talk about, how we can go from one addiction to a healthy addiction. How do you go from a destructive addiction, whether you're in a relationship that's destructive or abusive or drinking or eating or whatever it is your thing is?
Right.
How do you take that habit and bring it into a habit that's healthy? A habit that's going to serve you, to have as much desire, passion. If I say to someone, look, if you really want to work out, let's work out. And they go, well, I don't have time. I don't have desire. I don't have motivation. Then But if I sit and I put a chocolate cake in front of you, you you have all the passion, desire, and motivation to eat that thing. I I have learned to take that and put it into this.
Sure.
So anyway, that's kind of where I am. The condition of, right, like the four conditions, which are, it doesn't feel good, but it's good for you, it's good for your family, it's good for the world, right? And then it doesn't, and that you have to master, so eventually it feels good, right? You want to get it to feel good. It's good for you, it's good for, and that's what happened with this habit of these marathons.
Sure.
Now all of a sudden I just feel good all the time from these habits, and I don't have the other habit of feeling like crap.
Well, and this goes to what you and I were discussing before we came on. You have this thing called your reticular activating system, right? Your RAS. And wherever focus goes. So if you have the satellite dish on, and this is all the stuff you're trying to move away from, your brain doesn't know anything other than what you are aiming it at. And so your entire energy focus, in fact, your frequency drops to match what you're trying to move away from. So you get more of it. You become this is the signal that you're getting. You're like, why am I getting like static and dust bunnies and, and squelch over here? And it's like, because that's what you're focusing on. To your point, when we shift to what we need, which is love, prosperity, connection, engagement, opportunity, because progress equals happiness. And what feeds progress is possibilities.
Yes.
Now you're moving away from everything that you've been trying to leave behind and moving towards. But it starts with being in the present. That's why I said I started with, I love that you meet people where they're at, honey, because that's the deal. When you need to meet yourself where you're at. You can't look at it and say it's better than it is or worse than it is. You need to look at it for what it is. And from here, choices, opportunities. But those distinctions, and yet that chocolate cake metaphor is so strong. Becky, there's too many people chasing their wants and not meeting their needs.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting because I speak about this. And so for those of you joining us out there, and Becky knows these well. You have 6 human needs, and then you have 5 essential needs. So here's the difference. You need certainty, uncertainty, significance, love and connection, growth and contribution. On this side, and this is kind of funny, here's what you need: air, water, food, shelter, and love and connection. Because if you lack love and connection, failure to thrive syndrome is real. You can ask any pediatric nurse or pediatric doctor. They will tell you that if you're not loved within the first 5 minutes of coming into existence, you'll cease to exist. So the only one that crosses over into both universes
is love and connection.
Love and connection. And this is what ties us all together as human beings. It's why people seek for like-minded souls, and I'm using this language intentionally because here's what happens. And Becky, I love you because you said this so clearly. You don't come out of the womb going, I love this. Really? You like falling in the pursuit of learning how to walk? Rug burns on your knees because you were crawling so much? And I go, okay, yeah, what was it? And I said, and I love what Simon Sinek says about this because I'm unpacking about 50 open loops that you left in your monologue, which I love. Because Simon Sinek says a couple things. He goes, what helps people move forward is knowing that actually someone cares. That's it. So I love you for going out and talking about recovering and addicts. And I go, because I don't look at addiction as being a bad thing. It's just, what are you addicted to? You're addicted to love? Awesome. You addicted to connection? Awesome. You addicted to God? Awesome. Let's live in that spirit, right? And I'm reminded of this, and you said this, and thank you. So many people are worried about the how, and even more so the what. So Simon Sinek has this concept called the golden circle. And I love this. And he goes, it starts with a bullseye. And the bullseye is the why. Then you have a how, and then you have a what. Here's what he started recognizing. And this was in businesses and in people. 100% of the people can tell you what they do. 100% of the time. 50% can tell you how they do it. No, I don't know. It just happens. Like, wait, what? Here's the crazier part. Only 10% can tell you why they do it.
Mm.
Ooh, ouch. But if you invert that and you start with why first, your purpose, your reason, your existence, your motivation, your drivers, your strivers, that fulfillment, it's like, dang. Then you know what? 100% of the time, you can tell them how to do it and you can tell them what to do. What you do, how you do it, why you do it, they're all synonymous. It's called your triad. It's your physiology, focus, your language. It's your body, mind, and spirit. It's who you are. And this is what changes things. So the billion-dollar question, my friend, is that how do you help people understand what it means to keep their commitment to themselves and others?
So ask the question again.
I will, because you made a decision to run 12 marathons in 12 months.
Yes.
How do you continue to be consistent with the commitment that you made to yourself and to others?
It's a great question. I shared with Larry. I said, Larry, in order for me to be able to do this, it's not about can I do it. It's about me scheduling a marathon. That's it. It's that simple. You go on the internet. Okay, what are the marathons going on in April? Okay, I'm going to sign up for it. And that's all I have to do. I don't have to do anything else. And then I have to take my phone with the app. The app used to train me on how to run the marathon. But the problem with the app is that they didn't know I'd be using it. And here's the problem. The app will only give me the minimum of 12 weeks of training. So I can't set my app to train me for a marathon in 4 weeks. It won't do it, right? So I just did the first one, and I said, okay, the next one it's going to have to be like this. Okay. And I've actually developed a system where you have a cool down and a cool up, and all this stuff. It's very different with me now. So I would say you just have to do it. So I just ran on the 17th of March. I just ran the LA Marathon. It was hell. So I don't want anyone to think that this is easy, what's going on here, because it was hell. So I was ahead of myself on that marathon. I was ahead of myself. Larry couldn't get to me. So here's what Larry does. Larry comes to a marathon with me. He's like my cheerleader. So he'll take an Uber to like the 6th mile or the 10th mile or the 18th mile or whatever. You'll see when I put a reel on, you'll see him in the reel if he's at a marathon.
Yeah.
Because he's taking Ubers around New York City. He's like going to spots on the 15th, coming over the 59th Street Bridge. He hands me watermelon, orange juice. We take a photo and I keep going. He cheers me, right? So we're in LA. He can't get to me. He goes, look, I'll meet you on the 16th mile. I said, I'm on the 17th mile. He says, oh my God, you're going fast. I'm like, yeah, I'm really doing it.
I'm cooking.
Right? I'm like, it was good. But the problem with LA is that the hills are real gradual up, real gradual down. So I ran into problems. I'm juvenile diabetic. I posted this on my site, but I'm juvenile diabetic. And so I have to deal with my insulin pump.
Right.
I have to deal with this thing of the insulin. It's attached to my body, giving me insulin. People don't realize that insulin carries glucose into your muscles and tissues and gives you nutrients. Without an insulin cell, you're dead, because whatever you eat won't get into your cells and tissues, and you're a goner. So the insulin pump, I realized, started shooting up to around 300, my blood sugar. And I'm like,
whoa,
what's going on? And then I'm giving insulin, which I never do in a marathon. And normally I have to have gels and stuff. And I realize, I go, what's going on? I pull off to the side of the road and in around the 19th mile, and I throw up and I'm like lethargic. I'm like, what's going on? And I realized, I said, oh my God, my blood sugar is going up, and I go, oh no. And I look and I see the insulin pump is detached from my body. It's held into my body and it came out. And I said, oh no, what am I going to do? Because I was at mile 21. Now this is in the pump. It's insulin.
Right.
And I can detach this and take a shot. It's like a vial of insulin.
Yep.
And I said, I need a needle.
Depends on which neighborhood in LA you're in.
So I'm running and I'm thinking, oh my God. Now I want your viewers to understand this, that I feel this is called my marathon miracle, because I feel like my life is a miracle all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to believe in possibilities every second, right? Like you said, I don't want to look over here that I'm doomed. Right. I don't want to look over here. I want to look here that I need a needle. Hey, big guy upstairs, you need to get me a needle if you need me to finish this marathon, because if I go to a medical tent along the path, they're going to pull me off this marathon.
Yeah, you're DQ'd.
I'm gone.
Right.
So all of a sudden, I'm at like mile, what was I at? I was at around mile 21-ish. And I look down, I curve, like turns to go back. And I look down the road, and what do I see? But two huge fire trucks, like around, I don't know, 100 yards down, 100 feet down the road. And I go, whoa, where there's a fire truck, there's a paramedic. And
they'll have a syringe.
So I run down the road and I see, oh my God, there's a paramedic with no one in the truck. And I look to the left and there's a second paramedic. And the guy's in the truck, and I say, hey, here's my story. I need a needle. I'm running this marathon. And he goes, you know what? He gives me a needle. I take the insulin, I give myself a shot, and boom, I go back onto the path. Now, unfortunately, because of what happened with my blood sugar, it really screwed me up for this marathon, because I couldn't really run at that point because my muscles weren't getting nutrients. And I was like, now my blood sugar is high. I got to wait for it to drop. And needless to say, I walked around.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, but it doesn't matter. I got through the finish line. I got my medal, and all was well. But it was really hard when I finished. My body felt like I was hit by a truck.
Oh, listen, it's hard to explain to people. I mean, I can only tell you that as someone who conquered cancer in 2009, I don't talk about it very often. I had testicular cancer, but knocked it out, blew it out, got a clean bill of health ever since. And I'm also a type 2 diabetic.
Oh.
And so I know, and that's something that now only 2.7 million people know now. But it's interesting. And so it's not like if you were to look at Becky and I on the street, you don't go, oh, they're overweight, oh, they're out of shape, oh, it has nothing to do with that. What I'm going to say to all of you right now is you are not a victim of circumstance.
Yeah. Things
are going to happen. Opportunities avail themselves to you every single day, and you have choices that you get to make. Becky, your story is beautiful, and let me reframe that. Your account is miraculous. It's no longer a story. It is chronicled. It's been memorialized, and you're writing about it. And I would just say thank you for sharing your vulnerability. The truth is, the world gets better by understanding that no one's perfect. It's not. God bless you, the Kardashians, but this is not a Kardashian moment. And there's nothing here that is actually, in fact, I'll say the opposite, God willing and God blessing, that the universe provides us with this amazing grace to be able to live in this body that we've been gifted. And I go, yeah, mine doesn't always have the highest performance parts in it. But I'm upgrading every single day. And I'm doing that through weight training and through eating properly, and by focusing my energy and attention and releasing stress and tension that I believe stress is a silent killer. People can say what they want, but I've seen what it does to your body and the dis-ease that it can create and what it culminates into. And I go, then let's just let it go. Because at the end of the day, the tension, the stress, and the judgment that comes along with that. And I have been guilty. I have a PhD in kicking my own bottom. I'm flexible. And Becky, I know you have lived there as well in the past. And I so love the fact that you and Larry are so in love. It's like Julie and I, we've been together 36 years. We have 3 amazing children. You know, Mahala and Cole, our 2 of our children talk all the time. I can't call him a kid anymore. I mean, the young man in the other room. But here's what's great about this. They learn by example. And it doesn't mean that they're not going to have their challenges, their lessons, and their learnings. What I pray is that someday they watch back this episode. Maybe even they're watching now. Who knows? And here's the best part about this. Yes, and by living in this mortal state, we get to immortalize our intention by setting an example so that they can actually see that there's so much more opportunity and possibility when they just believe. You know, we have this concept, and you may be able to relate to this. There's so many people that fake it till they make it. They face it as they make it. Then they get to faithing it as they make it until they get to where you're at, my sister, and that is believing as they achieve. And it is a beautiful testament to the struggles of the past, because the 20s, 30s, and 40s, where I'm at now at 57, I go, you know what? I feel blessed because I don't look 57. I don't feel 57. I ask my wife. She goes, you don't act 57. And I was like going, well,
and that's good.
Like, is that a good thing or bad thing? She goes, it's a really good thing.
Yeah.
And when you said that commitment, so here's what struck me about the entire recollection. You didn't go into woe is me. You went into resourcefulness. Like, okay, because you were figuring it out on the fly, you know, and it's like going, and this is, for all of you that are listening at home or wherever you're at, understand this. You're not the culmination of one thing. You are the manifestation of everything. And there's no such thing as personal and professional balance. There's no such thing as work-life balance. You are a yin and yang symbol. You are in constant motion. You're a synergy of kind of homogeneous biochemical electrical sinew that is all working together, guided by a spiritual energy and a battery that's called life that's all around you. And so you get to decide when you're going to tap into yourself in that resourcefulness, that grace, that space. And I'm going to just say that Becky manifested 2 paramedic trucks down the street and a syringe.
Yes. And can I say something too that I think is important is that one of the things I realized is that, you know, things may come easy, but things may come hard too. And that, you know, we shouldn't be so surprised when things are getting screwed up and crazy. That we should just, like, for me, it's like when I finished that marathon and I said, Larry, take me home. And he just took me back to the hotel. And I was like, I don't know why I'm doing this. This is crazy. So here's my thought. I don't know why I'm doing this. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm killing my body. You know, every negative acclimate went into my head, right? I was done. I'm like, I'm not running in April. I'm done.
Right.
And, you know, you gotta love your spouses because God bless Larry. Like, first of all, Larry didn't want me to do any of this, but he is so great because he comes along for the ride and he is my biggest love. He is the love of my life. He says to me, you know what, Becky, let's just rest. I completely get it. Yeah, I get it. He goes, but you know what? Why don't you make that decision in a week?
Yes. I love Larry. I love that man. You know what? And I'm going to go on record as saying this, so this is going to be memorialized here. There's a difference between being a king and being a sovereign.
Are you asking me the question?
No, I'm saying there's a difference between being a king and being a sovereign. There's a difference between being a queen and a sovereign. You and Larry are sovereigns, and here's what I mean by that. You allow him space to be himself and to love on you, and you give him what he needs, which is the adoration and attention and appreciation, and he gives you his unadulterated support, love, and compassion. And it's a beautiful relationship to see. A king demands, a queen requests, and you two collaborate. That's what sovereigns do. They lead.
Beautiful.
They lead. So this whole thing of, oh, my king, my queen, I go, pfft. I say, you know what? Why don't we live in sovereign grace, which is guided from above, living with a full heart, being open body, mind, and spirit to the possibilities, and collaborating with one another through grace and appreciation and gratitude.
That's beautiful.
Look at that, Carla Rose. Thank you, honey. So
I love you, Carla. So I want to say something about Carla, who got me into this,
Please.
the whole thing, right? She's my cohort, my partner in crime with running, right? My biggest supporter when I'm out there. When I was in February, when I was running Fort Lauderdale, I was like, wherever the heck I was, where I was like, oh God, help me. And she's like, you got this, girl.
Yep.
Her and my sister-in-law, Jill, I call them, there's a chapter 3 in my book, the road to the awakened life, riding into your destiny. They're the sisterhood of traveling bikes. And they are with me with every marathon. The two of them are like, you got this, girl. You can do it.
Hey.
In 2 weeks, Carla and I are going to run the Jersey City Marathon. And she called me the other day. She's like, are you going to run the marathon? I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. It's 80% no. And the next
question.
Wait. The next morning I wake up and I go, what the hell? It's 80% yes now. Okay, I'm going to do it. I got a hotel and I used my frequent flyer miles. I said, by the way, I'm running with you.
Listen, first of all, shame on you. You thought it was a question? Come on, girl. You know better than that. And, Carla is someone I love and adore and appreciate. I had the pleasure of serving with her in multiple occasions in Robin's environment. And I will just say, a more steadfast, heartfelt, loving, beautiful soul. I adore her energy, her commitment. And I will say this, there are people that come into your life for a reason in a season. She's someone I will always adore and appreciate as just being a friend, and the same way I feel about you and Larry. It is true. I don't need to put on airs. I'm in full transparency. I'm no longer involved in that space, and that's okay too, because there are times when we need to understand that we get to move past, at least for me, playing small. And it was more about, how do I grow? How do I expand? How do I share what I can help bring to other people? And Becky is an absolute rock star. It's interesting because we all get to serve in different ways. And I go, reasons and seasons. And now I realize more and more, Becky, for me, and thank you, so much for this engagement and what we get to discuss. Because I have this saying, and I say, my family and I deserve the best of me and not what's left of me.
That's beautiful.
And it came about because I was serving and doing, at the last year, prior to my departure, I did 13 events.
I understand.
Right? I mean, and that's 20 hours a day, sometimes 22 hours a day. No embellishment, everyone. And I'm just saying this. They go, will you do that as a volunteer? And I said, yes. When you care, you will give your best to everyone. And I realized there was an expense.
Yeah.
There was an expense. I didn't realize that at the time because I was so motivated by contributing. And so this is the other part to what Becky was mentioning. Schedule it responsibly, which means be an active participant in your own salvation and holding near and dear those that you prioritize the most.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, and I realized this the hard way, you're replaceable, but not to your spouse, not to your children. And this is an extremely valuable lesson that thank goodness I learned it now. And
Well, and can I, and that's a beautiful thing that you're saying there, because, and I want to say to the listeners too, that life is very short.
yes.
And when I think of the things that I started doing, when I got into my 50s, and I'm 61 now, when I got into my 50s, I said, you know what, life is short. All those things you want to do, who do you want to become? And I said, I really want to become an athlete. And I would just say to all your listeners, make a decision of who and what you want to be and how you want to feel with yourself and how you want to look back in your life and say, what do I want my life to look like?
Yes.
Because that was one of the things that happened with these marathons and biking and all the stuff that we've done. And it changed me. When I had to really look at my limitations and put them on the side. So if I was going to give anyone any kind of advice of how they can do something great in their life, they have to take all their limitations and put them aside. Like you said, don't look at them, look to the other side and move towards it. If you want to lose weight, give up one thing.
Yes.
One thing. If you want to, exercise a little,
Yes.
it's a small little things that'll do it.
Ordinary things done right consistently produce extraordinary results.
Yes, and contribute, like give. I hear people like, I'm raising money for Teams for Kids for the New York Marathon, right? So and there's a link if someone wants to donate to Teams for Kids. But I want to give them, I'm going to give to an organization that can help kids that otherwise would be in gangs, and they're getting running clubs in their school and they're in terrible neighborhoods or whatever it is, sex trafficking. Give to whatever you feel.
Yes.
Because you have to realize every time you say, well, I don't have enough money, I don't want to give, or I'm poor. Anytime you're in poverty consciousness and you don't give, you're going to stay in poverty consciousness and you're not going to get. It's so important to give, not because you're going to get, because you'll be surprised how much you get. It's like you have to feel abundance in your life and move forward with that abundance and let it pour through. Clean a dirty closet out in your house. Clean a room of crap and watch the money come in. This is so easy, money and prosperity. Come on, make it easy.
But you got to remove the clutter. The mental, the emotional, set it free. Forgiveness is freedom. So for anything that's been holding you back, just forgive yourself. Forgive others. Let it go. Let it go. I know, Becky, we're running out of time. I would love, how can people learn more about Becky Keshmiri?
Well, you can follow me. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, all that good stuff. But my book, The Road to the Awakened Life, Riding into Your Destiny, is a really fun read. And you can put in www.awakenedlife.me. And you can order the book right now. There's a big sale on it, like 75% off. I think it's like $4 right now because I'm doing a big sale on it for everyone. And also, if they want to donate to Teams for Kids, they can. I think there's a link in my bio on Instagram. Awesome. I'm on TikTok. I'm on LinkedIn, but I'm trying to get technically savvy. It's not one of my fortes.
You know what? And we're going to change that language because that's a scarcity model that doesn't serve you and you don't deserve it. So with that, thank you, my sweet dear friend. And thank you for popping in and joining us. I love you dearly. And, hug that man of yours for me. I can't wait to see you in person where I get to give you a huge hug myself. So when you're running the Dallas Marathon, just let me know. Because
I'm in Dallas at the end of April at a Joe Dispenza seminar. Let's get together.
You're going to be at the Gaylord, which is 10 minutes from my house.
Yes, we're getting together, Larry and me.
Absolutely. Yes, please. I'll introduce you to my wife, Julie, as well. So, sweetheart, I love you. I just want to remind all of our listeners that show
Thank you.
You're welcome on the Spanglish Radio Network. Please check us out for all the news and all the programming. Spanglish World, watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it.